right. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this amazing conversation with my guest, Kara Goodwin. And I'm going to read out a little bio so that you get to know her a little bit. Kara Goodwin is the host of the Soul Elevation podcast, where I was a guest on a few weeks ago. So we met before, which is very exciting. And the author of the book, Your Authentic Awakening, A Guide to Everyday Spiritual Living. As a skilled energy healer and meditation guide, Kara empowers others to deepen their spiritual connection through transformative practices. Through her work, Kara inspires others to elevate their souls and align with their highest potential. Welcome, Kara. Very amazing to have you on.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be connected with you. And already my third eye is going crazy as you're doing the introduction. So I just love being with you and I'm excited to see where things go.
Yeah, I think we have a good connection energy-wise. So energy is coming
Mm.
in very beautifully. So the listeners
Yeah.
are also receiving the energy that's coming through, which is amazing. So yeah.
Yeah, that's why I like to call that out because sometimes you do find that this is it's a universal thing that's going on. So it's fun if people experience that themselves and then they're like, wait, that was happening to me.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, so thank you that we meet again. And yeah, it would be great for the listeners to give a little bit of information about your background, how you ended up where you are today, writing this amazing book and being the podcast host you are and the energy healer. Yeah, maybe you just give us a little bit of information
Yeah.
about your background.
Yeah. So I came from, it's similar to you where it was like I had this mainstream start. I was in the corporate world and for me, I had already kind of had kids and was married and everything before I started exploring spirituality. And I was always interested in more of the spiritual things in terms of like paranormal things or really drawn to angels and things like that. But I didn't have, and I had a little bit of a religious background as I grew up. We went to church sometimes. Um, but I really, when I got into my career, it was very fast paced. It was very demanding. And then I was raising a family. So there really, didn't nurture my spiritual side. And the reason that I started getting into it really was through trauma. It was through my life falling apart. In a very short time, in 7 months, I experienced the suicide of my sister-in-law, who was one of my best friends. And shortly after that, our dog died. My stepdad had surgery on his brain stem. So we weren't sure, that's very delicate and you don't know how that's going to work out. Luckily, that worked out very well, but his health had been deteriorating. Um, my mother-in-law was hit by a motorbike as she crossed the street. My stepmom went into the intensive care unit with heart issues, went to the top of the heart transplant list. So there was that whole period where she was deteriorating quickly. And then it was a heart transplant that saved her. So all of that in a very, very concentrated amount of time. And I just really felt unsure about my life. I felt that I just felt very like the rug had been pulled out from under me. And so through that, I explored meditation just to help me feel better and to help my nervous system to kind of reset. And I really didn't go into meditation from a spiritual perspective. I really just wanted that calmness and I wanted to not feel that I had to pray a certain way or bring that part into it. And so I did start to feel a lot better by cultivating a meditation practice. And then as I was going deeper into meditation, I started to have some spontaneous um, visuals where the first thing that I remember from this time period was feeling that light was coming. My eyes were closed, but light was coming down from the top of my head down through my body. And it felt like golden light, is what it seemed. And it was warm. And it just blew me away. I was in tears. It just felt so amazing. And I really didn't know what it was, but it felt divine. Like it felt supernatural. Um, and then I would have occasionally other experiences, and just kind of bit by bit started to open myself up more to the divinity side of it and that spiritual connection. And eventually started having more expansive experiences. And, I'm happy to talk about that, but that's kind of the origin story in a nutshell.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it sounds like you experienced a lot in these 7 months. And then you
Yeah.
decided, okay, something needs to change. I guess this is a I would say a typical story, or a lot of people going through something in life experience, right? Something that make them just change and want to look into other areas where they haven't explored that because what they're experiencing were too much, like you were saying. So yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Okay, yeah, fascinating. Yeah, and then you explored meditation, and then what came after that?
Well, I started teaching meditation and just sharing it with others because I was getting so much from it. So I was teaching classes. I learned, I became a certified meditation teacher. And then a friend of mine in Sweden, who I had met through the group who taught me how to meditate and where I got my certification through, we decided to start the podcast because we had been having such deep discussions over WhatsApp, and she had the idea maybe we should have a podcast so other people can join in these discussions. So I can't remember if it was about like a year or a year and a half, I had her as a co-host, and we really just it was really much more about meditation. And then her time got very, very tight for many very real reasons. And she wanted to step away from the podcast. And that's when I took over and it became more of an interview style. And it became less about meditation then and more about consciousness, more about exploring consciousness from all different kinds of aspects, the quantum perspective, spiritual awakening, energy healing, and so forth. And that's just been such a joy to be able to explore in that way. Um, I became an energy healer as well, so that became an important part of my work as well in terms of deepening my understanding of energy, and then just being able to assist others by direct energy transfer is such a beautiful practice. So, doing that remotely and in person. But the the heart of my work continues to revolve around meditation, and it has evolved because you do the divine transmissions, and I would say that when I am guiding people in meditation, it's a similar kind of thing. It's not, we do it doesn't feel the same. Like what you're doing has a flavor to it that is not the same flavor as what I'm doing. But that energy element of being able to kind of hold the space for people. And, I see it as there's so much happening behind the words. The words are part of it, but then there is that syncing up that's happening, even nervous system to nervous system, but subconscious to subconscious, just being able to hold the space, expand out, and kind of guide people, letting the words help to guide them, but allowing things to happen under the surface.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So, what exactly are you guiding people in towards? Like, are you opening up the space and then you see what comes through, or do you have a program? So, what are you exactly doing? I'm curious.
Yeah, well, I some classes are in person and actually there's the school system here in my town. They have a wellness program for their teachers and their
Mm.
staff. So I've been doing that for many, many years. And then I have an online group as well. And it's really guiding people. I mean, first and foremost, I want people to learn how to meditate
Mm.
so that they don't feel that they have to be in the group setting and with me in order to connect with themselves. So that's always kind of my guiding my North Star is like, here's the process that we're going to use. Here's the flow. We start with breath work, we relax the body. I do some tuning fork things. Um, and then we do a mantra, use an inner mantra, and then we kind of, the end is kind of that expansion part where that changes from time to time. So just feeling into what is the group really going to benefit most from. So are we going to focus on the body and kind of bringing healing in or bringing light in? Are we going to focus on connecting to our higher self and our divine team? Are we going to focus on forgiveness and healing others or however it might work? So there's really no limits, but it is that there's always the core kind of flow to be able to help people to get calmer and again, I want that to be a repeatable thing so that people can do that on their own. And then there is this more freestyle, I would say, at the end, where it is, again, just tuning into what seems to be happening. And there have been there are always beautiful, times when we're spending them together. One one experience that sticks out in my mind of just the potential of things and how things work mysteriously is this man had shown up in my class and he was new and this was an established group. So I and he was, he was I think the only male that was there. Maybe there was like one other male there, but I was when I'm feeling people out, especially in the environment where it's like more of a secular environment, I sort of default to less of the spiritual. I try to kind of keep it more at the nervous system level and just to until I have established how comfortable people are. And so I didn't want to get too like woo woo, too esoteric as I was getting to know him. And he pulled me aside after class and he's like, my vision is clearer. Is that normal? He's like,
Yeah.
because we hadn't worked on anything with our vision, we hadn't been like targeting that. And then that was a really, I hadn't said anything about that possibility happening. Um, and he just didn't strike me on the surface as somebody who would have even been open to something like that happening. So I just share that because
Yeah.
it's such a mysterious thing and I know that it's like this for you too where it's like let's just kind of set the stage and allow this energy to move in and let's let it do what is going to be in your highest and best good.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Very beautiful. Yeah, I mean, as you know, I do it similarly because guiding, okay, is one thing to bring people in a certain space, in this open and expanded space, so that more light can come in. And then what's basically happening in the background, we don't really know, right? We just know there is a
Yeah.
process happening, there is a transformational work going on, and it's also very individual, even though that there is a group, everybody's receiving, but the how it's manifesting is individual. So I think it's just such an amazing way to work with people because as you do, we can work with groups and everybody is getting exactly what they need. So yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, very beautiful. And you work with the higher self a lot, or this is a big part of your work, right? So can you talk a little bit about the higher self versus the human and how we can connect to it? And
Yeah. I
mm,
think that this is the kind of the foundational piece of a lot of the problems that we have as individuals and collectively today is that we don't even, from a societal perspective, we're not even acknowledging this bigger aspect of the reality that we're in, where we have this higher self. And there are a lot of people have different names for it, but that's just kind of what I consider this eternal aspect of each of us. And it's who we were before we were born, who we will return to when we pass. And then we have this little self. We have this human self that is limited. It's got a birth date. It will have a death date, and it is confined to the physical experience that we're having, but it is connected to this higher self. And that connection, we can nurture that connection, or we can completely deny it and just live without it. It's always available for us, but if we're denying it and we're only living from this physical perspective, then we sever ourselves, and it is an energy source. So it's multifaceted. It is a lot of things. It's not just an energy source, but it gives us more vitality. It gives us more access to more energy, which helps our physical bodies. It helps our mental state to balance. It helps our emotions to regulate. So it helps us to get that inspiration and to feel into our purpose and to express ourselves in a purposeful way. And I believe that the disconnection from that is the root of the feeling of separation that we have as individuals, the the dis-ease is, that can be the root of dis-ease. Again, coming back into that energy being separated from our energy source, but also the disharmony, the dissonance that we have in our environments where we're having trouble with relationships or with the collective. We feel discontent. Maybe we feel like a malaise. We feel just a sadness, and we can't even put our finger on it, but we just feel dissatisfied. And I think for myself, going back to the way that I was living for so long in the corporate world and just kind of living this surface level life and just trying to get things done. And my life was just about doing, trying to get caught up and stay caught up. It was just this hamster wheel. And there was something missing. And I did just feel this, like, I felt kind of adrift, just like, what's the point of this? And I think that the root of that is when we don't feel that, we don't feel that connection. We don't nurture that connection that we have to that spiritual aspect, that eternal aspect of who we are, that we start to feel that way. And so when we open ourselves up to that connection, we can start to experience a healthier lifestyle, for one thing. I used to get sinus infections, colds, the flu. I was sick a lot of the year, a lot of respiratory things. And I'd get a cold or a sinus infection, and then I'd just have this cough. This happened every year, multiple times a year, and my cough would just hang around. I couldn't shake it. I'd end up like sleeping in the guest room so that my husband could sleep. It was ridiculous, and it happened constantly. And then I developed a meditation practice, started to be able to work with my energy and just bring in more energy, and that doesn't happen to me anymore. Sometimes, every once in a while, I'll have a cold. It'll last for a few days. The cough doesn't linger. And even that is unusual. I just don't really get sick anymore, and definitely not like I used to. So, that's just on the physical plane. But that access to that energy makes us healthier on all fronts and helps us to get that balance in. And it makes for a more purposeful life when we can see our challenges. It doesn't mean that we don't have challenges as we go through life. We still will be part of the human experience and have things that we need to overcome. But having that spiritual connection and having the ability to have a spiritual perspective so that we're not just seeing the obstacles at face value, but we're able to step back and say, okay, let me entertain the possibility that somehow this is working for me, like I'm supposed to go through this for some reason. Can that help to soften what is happening and to maybe change my perspective about it and make it a little bit easier to move through? So there are, I mean, I could go on and on and on, and I know that you could as well. And I think your listeners, I'm sure this isn't the first time they're hearing about this, but it's, sometimes we need to hear the message at the right time based on what we're going through and be reminded about things. And that's why that's so important to me. And that's the biggest opportunity that I think we have as humans across the board.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, very amazing. I mean, the higher self, I call it the light aspect because to me, I mean, it's just light with information. And
Mhm.
as you said, there are different words for it. Um, but there is like so I see the light aspect is being in creation. Yes, creation is infinite, and there's also a lot of information there. I mean, all different galaxies, different beings, different planes of consciousness and stuff like that. And through the work with your higher self, do you feel you have more access to these planes through that as well, and to this information that's out there? Is this coming through for you? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And I love what you're saying with this access to creation. I I kind of see it in a fractal way where like I am a fractal of my higher self, and there are other fractals of my higher self too that are, maybe they're having human lives in the past and the future, on different timelines. Maybe they're in other planets, maybe they're in other dimensions. And and I see my higher self as a fractal of something bigger as well. And I think it keeps kind of pulling up to another level where more gets absorbed into that level. Um, I am getting a lot out of connecting to what I would call pure source consciousness. And so that would be like my higher self would be a part of that, but it would also encompass the totality of everything, kind of the 0 point. And I see that as like a column of plasmic light. And so in my meditation, I love to spend time just feeling that I'm in that column of light and that I am filling myself up and intending that I hold and contain as much of that pure source light as as I can and radiate that out as I move through my life. And so that is my intention in terms of, and then, how I kind of kind of like what you were saying with the meditations, where it's like who knows what's happening behind the scenes, but I carry that intention, I reinforce that intention, and then I kind of let my higher self, I feel like my higher self kind of can have this director role where it can work out the details of like, okay, if you need to work on that more while I'm sleeping or, while I'm meditating or however that's going to work, or you need to put somebody into my path that's going to help put Eva in my path where she can help me to, bring more of that in or make some different connections within my system to be able to facilitate that at a deeper level, that so it all works together. Um and so I see my higher self as being part of the picture, and that it keeps going.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's very fascinating because through my journey, it was more so I became one with everything, so in consciousness, and then becoming the absolute, and then suddenly you like everything out of creation and everything in creation, and then I also realized so later that I'm also the light aspect, so this is also part of what I am. And through that connection, I can now explore consciousness, but also from the perspective of the absolute. So seeing, that everything is in creation, it's infinite, but still there is outside of creation as well. And this is why I'm just very interested in the higher self because it's closer to the human
Mhm.
compared to the absolute. So it also has more intention and has more, yeah, intention to help the human or help the human life assisted and also humanity, if you want. So this is what I'm getting. Like the information in the higher self is closer to the human than, of course, the absolute, because from that perspective, nothing needs changing or everything is perfect as it is, right? But from the human level, of course, we are evolving. We explore things. We want to change certain things. So this is, yeah, I think the higher self is just a very amazing aspect of ourselves we can tap into and then work with it, which you're doing. So that's very amazing because we basically, let's say the higher self is like a better version of ourselves or a higher possibility, and we can also bring this through the human experience. And that's so amazing. So how do you connect to your higher self? I mean, you in meditation, but if people want to connect, like just with intention, or do you have like an something, a ritual or something that you share with your with people who you meditate with to connect with the higher self?
What a great question. I would say that it's more of something that happens behind the scenes. And there are meditations that I'll lead where we're working more directly, like bringing our attention specifically to the higher self. I was just leading one a couple of days ago where I was having people picture I was describing it as a bigger version of themselves, like a just a bigger and vapory, so not solid and wiser and older. And so I was just trying to get them for it to be more tangible and more relatable so that it doesn't have to be this like, well, what would the higher self look like? Would it have a human form? Would it have no gender, whatever? I was like, let's not get too like analytical about it. Just picture yourself, but bigger and wiser and vapory, not solid. And then it was, see the higher self with or see this version of you having her hand on your head. And so and then through that, just imagine. So a lot of it, like I'll just use the word imagine so that people take the pressure off of visualize. I feel like you've probably experienced this too, where it's like there can feel like, oh, wait, do I know how to visualize? Am I doing it right? Wait, I don't see it, but it's like, but if you just say imagine, a lot of times people can do that because they don't feel like they have to do it a certain way. But it's like, okay, imagine that their hand is on your head or on your forehead. I can't remember which one I said. And that they are directing energy from their hand, ultimately from their heart, and so using very human terms and anatomy and visualization, but to create this connection. And people were sharing things like somebody was feeling a warmth on one side of their body and really was feeling that support. And we did the same thing with one of their hands on the front of their heart and one on the back of the heart. And then the energy between the palms, like attracting toward each other and going right into the heart. So there are ways like that that I specifically invoke like a higher self presence and have them working with it directly. But then a lot of my meditations just begin with let's put ourselves in a sphere of golden light. Just feel that golden light supporting you, and that only the very highest good is going to be able to permeate that and be part of it. And then I invite them to call forth their higher self and their divine guides, their divine team. I like to call it your divine team, like whatever helpers are there.
Mm.
And so we kind of set the tone for the meditation to be overlit by the higher self and to be kind of managed from their perspective so that like they're there, they're present, they're making sure that it's only for their highest good and that they're getting what they need. But then as the meditation goes on, it may be more of a, okay, let's work with our heart space and let's feel that flame in the heart and let's amplify that, like feel it growing, feel it getting warmer, see it getting like as big as your torso, and keep going from there, where we're not necessarily like bringing our attention to the higher self, but we have already invoked and invited the higher self to play the role behind the scenes in the highest way.
Hmm. Okay, yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I mean, I like that you say it's as simple as calling the team in or the higher self in because, yeah, absolutely. But people often like they're not so sure how they can do these things, but it's intention, just intention. On an
Yeah.
energetical level, we only work with intention and it works. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that as
Yeah.
well. Very cool. And then I have a question. So you are talking about different vibrations in the body, such as the golden titles, mirror realms, and your creator beings. And please explain what they are because I've never heard of them before. I'm curious.
Yes. So you're talking about some of the experiences that I've had in more of the kind of mystical, metaphysical realms where, so for, I know you read this in the book, but just to kind of set the stage for people who are listening, I'm not a super clairvoyant person in my everyday life. When I receive information outside of my five senses, typically it's more of like a knowing or a felt sense or information that just comes in. I just know that it's the truth. I might be able to feel that it's truth within my body, but I don't as easily like see things. But then there have been several times where I've had these experiences in between wake and sleep. So, funnily enough, even though meditation is such a big part of my life, it typically doesn't happen in meditation. These big ones tend to happen when I'm quote unquote falling asleep, but I don't actually fall asleep. Sometimes I do actually fall asleep, but I have had I've had experiences and then I drop off into sleep. And I can remember what happened just before. But the, so at different times, I have had different experiences, and it has felt as though my consciousness has been traveling. And again, like I'm very aware that I'm still in my bed. I can still have access to my body consciousness. Like I can just choose to come back and check in because there have been times where I'm like, am I still there? Am I physically in this place or did I go on a ship? Like where, and I'll like just bring my awareness back into my body. And I'm like, nope, I'm still here, still in my bed. I might have physical sensations that are happening while the visuals are happening, like associated with the chakras, where I'll be feeling one at a time, each chakra like physically vibrating. So, again, like the chakra is not, I know it's not like a physical part of the body, it is an energetic part of the body. You can dissect a body and not find the chakra because it's not physical, but you can feel this energetic activation happen in a concentrated area that is where the chakras have been taught to be for centuries, where we've just like that is the esoteric wisdom. And so it's fascinating when you can actually feel them vibrating. And during these times, a lot of times I can even feel the bed in that spot where I'm like, oh my God, even the bed feels like it's vibrating in that one spot. And
That's interesting. Yeah. Mhm.
have you had that happen too?
No, I haven't, but I mean, I'm also working with the chakras, but just it came up for me to do, so I
Uh-huh.
wasn't intending, and they're also
Right.
there where you're experiencing them, so it's a thing. But yeah,
Yes.
I think it's fascinating. I've never experienced them vibrating, but that you also experienced the bed vibrating. I thought that was funny. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. It is funny. It's
Mhm.
it's wild. So so then associated with like the physical sensations, then there are often visuals. And again, there's this sense of my consciousness traveling where I'm getting like further away from my body. And so like and there are different like distances where the visuals change the quality. So for example, when I'm really close to my body, the visuals that I'm seeing are much denser. They're like, and they feel closer to my body, but they're a little bit more chaotic. They're, it might be just all different colors, but you can't really make out any kind of information or shapes or anything. It's just color. And then I can kind of move through that. And there are all kinds of things that happen simultaneously because I can also if I bring my awareness to my brain, it's like, oh, okay, so my awareness within my brain is also moving higher. And if it moves a little bit to the left or right, things change. And so it's almost like there are coordinate points within the brain, and then that changes the quality and the visual of what I'm seeing and experiencing through my consciousness, through my inner sight. But you mentioned the golden tiles, for example. So that was one experience. Again, all of these happen in that hypnagogic state between sleep and wakefulness. So I'm in my bed and I'm starting to see like the shapes in my inner sight. It's starting to look as though I'm in this like tube almost of, and it's made up of tiles. It is the quality of what it looks like. So like just tie like a mosaic kind of thing, and it looks like this long tube that's around me. And then I start to notice that I am sharing these tiles with everybody that I'm connected with. So there are people kind of more on my inner circle who would be like my family, people that I see every day, people that I connect with on a deeper level. And they're kind of right, I share a lot of tiles with them just because we have a lot of interaction. We just share a lot of life. And so it's like this overlapping, almost kind of the same idea of a Venn diagram, right? So I have my tiles, they have their tiles, but then there are places where we connect where we share the tiles. And it's all very quantum. It's like
What
it
do
can
they
be.
stand for, the tiles? Like, what are you seeing? What do they
Well,
stand for?
it's more like a when I say a tile, it's kind of like a
Hmm.
mosaic. So it's not that I guess it would be experience that we have together and the connection, like the energetic connection that we have. And it was just sort of, so maybe the tiles represent like my energy and my life creation. And then where I share that with other people, we have these shared experiences and this shared kind of energy exchange. And so, for example, like with my children or my husband, I would have a good percentage of my tiles would be shared because we share that energy, we share that exchange, we share that biology, even when it comes to my kids. And then there will be people who are like further removed, and it's like I would have like a less of a percentage, but I would still share some tiles with them because we are connected. It's basically their connector points. And the people who you're more connected with, you have a more of an effect on, right? And the same for them for you. And it just kind of keeps going where there are just touch points that are less and less the further out, the further removed people are. And as I was just feeling into that and like, oh, that's so interesting, because it would be like, for example, maybe I'm here, my daughter's next to me, just energetically. And then, of course, she is sharing tiles with a lot of people. And some of those people I'm not connected with except through her. But through our interaction, it changes, like it affects everything that she's connected to. And so at some point in this experience, the tiles started going golden because I started choosing to just come into a deeper love and to like intentionally infuse my space, those energy tiles, with a higher vibration, and to infuse them with like a coherent energy. And I saw them start to turn golden. And then as they turn golden, because I share with everybody I share the tiles with, the part that we share went golden, but then it started to even radiate out beyond what we shared.
Mm.
So it starts, it's like a
Beautiful.
ripple effect, right? And is it easy to see what
Yeah,
I'm?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So by you raising your vibration, you're affecting many people around you. So not just the closest ones, but also they. So did they also affect, like, for example, your daughter who was connected to, let's say, a friend? Was this friend also getting the golden light, receiving the golden
So
light, or?
I couldn't perceive too far beyond just my own. I could see like, oh, where we share that goes golden. So it goes golden for them too, because it's kind of like a two-way mirror. But then I could see that especially the ones that I had the higher percentage of connection with, it was rippling out beyond just what, so theoretically, then yes, it would, in a softer way, affect the people that they're connected to, because it was like that part was going really golden, but then it was starting to like bleed through to the other aspects of their energy where we weren't connected.
Mm.
And then the people who were further out from where I was, they were getting it, but just at a lesser level,
Mm.
you know, so it wasn't like lighting up as strongly the further out the
Mm.
connections went.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, I know a lot of people want to be here of service and help. And I always tell them, when we do this kind of work and we're connecting to the energies and the light and, our system raises the vibration, we carry more light and so forth, we are influencing our surrounding. And I love how you just shared in your experience or meditation how, yeah, how it's what's the word, manifesting basically on an energetic level. So very beautiful. Thank you for sharing
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of people just want to, they are on the journey, but they still want that others can follow this as well, even though maybe they're not on the journey on a conscious level. And I think that's happening anyways,
Hmm.
because so many are working on their system and yeah, so very beautiful.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. You know, I remember in my earlier days of spiritual awakening, it was this like, I want everybody to know what because it's so impactful and it's so beneficial. And that's a hard way to approach it, where we feel like everybody's got to, that we have to like be on a mission of, I mean, it feels like missionary work, right? Where it's like, you've got to believe what I believe. I need to convince you to believe what I believe. And, there's some psychology there that we would want to look at, some shadows that go with that, where it's like, well, why do we need other people to adopt our beliefs? Like, what is it within us that's still feeling unsure? Because we see other people and maybe we feel defensive that, there might be a part of that where it's like, okay, for this to be legitimate, I've got to see it reflected outside of me wherever I look. And I think as we kind of go into our path and we develop more and more, then it can be more of a where we're just drawing people who are ready to us, instead of feeling like we have to be out there kind of like banging the drum and convincing people, where it's like rather just being who we are and then affecting people at the subtle level. Because a lot of that, like if we go back to that, the tiles, the golden tiles, just like what you're saying, the more we're regulating our own system, the more we're coming into alignment, the more we're able to radiate more of that higher vibration, of the truth, of the highest truth, that we communicate on subtle levels, on subliminal levels, on quantum levels. There is communication. So there's so much that happens beyond what we're saying. And there's not only like with what people are hearing right now in this conversation that we're having, but all the time we are having this subtle effect, and we're picking up on people even if we don't realize it, but people are also picking up on us. And so that is, I think, where the real opportunity for change is, rather than feeling like we've got to get to everybody's belief systems, we've got to convince them, we've got to get them to change their behavior, but rather just being more and more true to our own path and our own journey of awakening, and getting that alignment, clearing out our own shadows, and then letting the organization happen through the universe, because there's that harmonic. Like the clearer we get and the more authentic we are, then we're holding a coherence, we're holding a harmonic, and our energy people feel that, even if they don't realize they feel it, but they feel it. And it starts to help everything at the energetic level, it starts to help things organize and get out of chaos. And that is a huge service. So going back to what you were saying about people want to help and they want, it's like that, I think, is the highest service, really, is the ability to work on ourselves and to keep just bringing in the highest version of ourselves. And then, like, I think that it's hard for us to fathom just how potent that is at the energetic level.
Yeah, I mean, beautifully said. Thank you very much for sharing this. Very important. Yeah, I see it exactly in the same way. We can only like raise our vibration, raise our level of consciousness, and through that we are helping the most and impacting also the collective, and also the change that's happening on the collective level. So, yeah, very beautiful. Absolutely agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, perfect. And then since I really enjoyed you sharing this experience, so you have two more,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I would like to hear, or at least I wrote that down two more, your creator being, because I'm also very interested in that. Um, I see it more and more. Of course, we're the creators of our reality, but not just we are not just manifesting specific things in our reality, but like from the vibration we're at and from the level of consciousness we're at, creation is just happening. This is the natural thing here in this reality, right? And so I'm also exploring this more and more, and I'm very curious to hear your exploration.
Yeah, so this was one of the first like big quantum experience, metaphysical experiences that I had. So when I was sharing before about the feeling my consciousness moving through these levels and the experience changing as I was moving. So moving from more of a denser kind of more like chaotic, which I think probably is more like the astral realm, moving through that, and then the forms that I was seeing started to thin out and become like more subtle, less dense, less thick. So it's like the further out my consciousness was going that I was traveling through, and again, still in my bed, still aware that I'm in my bed physically, but I was just moving through what we might consider realms. And so the experience kept changing. So at one point I was in this like almost like a carnival kind of feel to it, where it was just like a lot of contrasting colors. There was a lot of chaos. There were like things that looked like a roulette kind of, black and red, or there was some like green and red contrast, and just very chaotic. And it just very much felt like a casino or a fun house. I see that. I feel like I have to pass through that realm relatively frequently because it wasn't the only time I've seen that. And I'm like, why does it look like this? It's so weird. But anyway, and I went through several different realms. Some of the realms just looked like these thin golden lines, and I had the impression that it was code, like they were lines and they were crossing in all these different ways. And the way that they crossed, it was codified, and it was part of like the creation of reality. And there were beings who were adjusting them too, but I didn't stay in that place very long. At one point, things started to thin out, like the visuals started to thin out a lot, and then it just looked like space. And so it was like a void, but there were pinpoints of light, and I felt that I was just in space. And then I noticed that I was looking out of these windows, and they were either octagonal or hexagonal, like big, huge windows, and I was very close to it. And then there was like this metal frame around it with these etchings, like these little symbols, which I'm sure was like light language. But and so I'm looking out of space. And then at some point, and because this went on for hours. So I was like in different places and saw different things. This is where I saw like the spiral of time that you may have read about. That was this same experience. But it kept going on. And one of the later experiences was that I was just this huge sphere of light, like a sun. I was just this, and I was out in space. And I was like, wait, if I'm this sun, like, what about the human me? Like, what about little Kara? Because I just felt that this was this enormous, like a celestial body, like a planet or a star or something. And as soon as I had the thought, what about my little human expression? I saw this very, very, very far away, and it was this tiny little point of light. And I knew that that was me on Earth. And I was like, well, do, how does this work then? And the light that I was looking at, that was the little human Kara, I was understanding, it was one of those like knowings just all at once. Like that light that I was observing as little Kara, or that was little Kara, the light was always constantly adjusting. And that was the communication. And that's based on frequency. So the vibrational frequency is signaling to this creator. And I understood that as like the creator being. That's what I was like calling this huge sphere, celestial body. But that was like projecting my reality was projecting reality through light to this little human Kara. But the way that and it was giving her exactly what she was asking for in terms of what it was projecting, because she was asking for it by the light that she was communicating. And the light was coming through the vibrational frequency. So when I was expressing a high vibrational frequency, I was saying more of this. Like I'm saying, so it's real time communication. And I'm just saying, like, this is what I want. But there were times when the light was dimmer. And so it was like, okay, I'm asking for the like a lower vibrational experience, this level of light. And our vibrational light is vibrational frequency. It is like that is what it is. So it's like when you slow that light down, it becomes a denser, um, lower vibrational frequency light that you're in. And so it was just this constant communication. It's, of course, it's happening subconsciously. Like it's not that I'm most of the time, you're just being who you are, but you're always responding to your circumstances. And when we get kind of swallowed up in the lower vibration, where we are asking, I don't want to make it sound like that can feel really harsh when we're going through a hard time. It's like, well, you're asking for it, but it really, like, it's so neutral. It's not that like this creator being is going like, oh, there she goes, she's dipped, so now she's going to get the low vibration. There was no judgment. It was like, you can have whatever you want. Like, just tell me what you want and I will give it to you. And so it wasn't this wasn't at the granular level of me going like, I want tickets to this concert, or I want to have a really beautiful meal at this restaurant I can't get into. Or it was just it was a much higher level than that of like, I just like, what level of light do you want? And what vibrational frequency experience do you want?
Mm. Oh, beautiful. I mean, such a helpful image. First of all, to see this big ball and then the small light bulb on Earth here. And yeah, and that we actually ask for that. And you saw this in real time. I mean, you will never forget this, right? So you will always be
Right.
aware when you don't feel great that you actually creating this yourself in a way. Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. I love how we get these experiences that we see how consciousness works, or in that case, creation works. It's so helpful because then it's there for us. It's in our reality, and yes, very cool. So that's a very helpful image. Thank you for sharing. Very
Thank you.
inspiring. Yeah. And so, what do you do now when you feel a little bit down?
Yeah, I know, right? Because
Yeah.
like I'm saying, I don't want to feel like, God, I'm doing this to myself.
Yeah.
What, stop, and then be angry with myself for doing it to myself. But there are different ways that we want to remember that we can shift our vibrational frequency, like being in nature, or getting off of our screens and just getting the blood moving, going for a walk, going for a bike ride, listening to some uplifting music, listening to binaural beats or solfeggio tones, reading uplifting content, watching uplifting content, putting your podcast on or my podcast on, and just allowing ourselves to take a break, to refocus on, there's not one objective reality that's happening. And quantum science verifies this. There have been all kinds of studies that have talked about the observer effect, and that, we Newtonian logic tells us that there is an objective reality, but in the quantum world, everything is subjective. It's based on the witness, it's based on the observer, it's based on the participant. So we're never just experiencing something without affecting it. And so there are so many different versions of reality that are available for us at any given time. And if we're finding ourselves really pulled into something that we feel is suffocating us and that we're not, that we're kind of sinking into, then we have all these other ways that we can shift our attention to be able to cultivate a higher vibration and then be able to deal with what is showing up in our lives from a different perspective. So there are, I mean, even just taking like an Epsom salt bath or going for a swim in a natural body water, if that's accessible. There are a lot of ways that we just can help ourselves to pull ourselves out of that.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I mean, I also always recommend to people that they, for example, do one of my YouTube videos because it
Mhm.
just, let's say, removes the low vibration energies and they're moved out of the system and the light is coming in, the high vibrational light, and then
Yeah.
the vibration is changing. So it's actually the small self asking for more light. So
Yes,
very cool. So this
exactly.
is a possibility as well. But yes, I
Yeah.
always also recommend it's the simple things, right? It's like moving the body, going out into nature. Yeah, absolutely. That's so helpful. Yeah, very
Yeah.
beautiful. Mm. Yeah, and then about the sacred geometry. This is geometry. This is also something you are very passionate about. Yeah, please tell me more about it. It's nothing I've ever looked into so much. So yeah, just let me know what you are exploring through
Well,
yeah, through it. Yeah.
yeah. So frequently when I'm in those states that I've described, there is a geometric element where I'm seeing shapes, I'm seeing complicated shapes, and sometimes they're like moving patterns. A lot of times they're not like static images of just like, oh, it looks like the thing behind me and it's
Mm-hmm.
not moving. Like a lot of times it's rotating or it's moving or it's morphing, it's changing from one shape to another. Um, and it happens frequently that's one of the main things that I see, and I understand it to be that geometry is one of the foundational aspects of how creation happens. And we can see this, like the other day I was at Meow Wolf, which is like an experiential like art installation. And there was a place where you could speak into this microphone and it was showing you, like, it was making shapes based on what you were saying. So it was kind of taking a circle and then, like dynamically affecting that circle based on your tone and volume and all of this. And it was a great way to think about, we see illustrations of sound and how it affects, you can visualize how sound is moving. And so if you think about that from like a 3D perspective where information is coming through geometry. And so it's this energetic kind of way that reality is structured upon. And so I use sacred geometry in a few different ways. One is by drawing it. So it can be a very meditative practice to just be drawing, um, and using the precision of using a compass and using a ruler. And there's just something like sacred geometry uses these sacred angles and proportions related to like the phi ratio, which is also known as the golden ratio. These are found all throughout nature. It is how like a shell, like a nautical shell is, it's tight down here and it just keeps like there's a ratio that it forms and it keeps, gets exponentially bigger as it gets going. Well, that is the phi ratio. And you'll see this in sunflowers and petals and our anatomy and the anatomy of every living thing has these proportions that follow this formula. And so it's very innate to who we are and what we observe in the natural world. And the more that I draw those angles, it there's something mysterious that happens. It's very like it's not linear and it's not like rational mind where I can say the more if I draw this 6 times, then I'm able to, and this is the result. It happens like my dreams change, my like manifestation changes. It's just, and I believe that a big part of it is the structure of reality, just tuning into the natural structure of the energy, the energetic origins of reality, because that is kind of all the space around us that looks like like it's empty space. It's full, and it is full of energy, and that energy has guiding principles. So I believe that part of it is, at least, is just tuning in like subconsciously to that structure.
Hmm.
But another thing that I find really valuable is to, after you draw it, if you color it, that can help too, or just printing some off and coloring them. That again helps you just attune to it. It's like you're just kind of enjoying
Hmm.
being with these angles and being with these shapes, but you don't have to like have this pressure of, you can just kind of let your subconscious engage with it and not feel the pressure of like having to do something in a certain way.
Hmm.
But then also,
Oh,
oh,
sorry.
go
Yeah.
ahead.
No.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say, very interesting. So I always see energy just as energy, but, and this is very interesting. I found this out by mistake once, or yeah. So when I have my eyes closed and I just push with my hand onto my eye in a weird way, like there's actually a push happening. I'm in a space where there is only geometric signs or whatever you want to call it, and it's like I'm in it fully, and it's perfect. It has perfect shapes, perfect color, and I'm just in this space, and it feels very nice, very aligned. But I have no idea why I can see this when I just push my eyeball in, because I never see it in any other circumstances. Like it never showed up. I just want to share that. But yeah,
That's
it
interesting.
feels very aligned in there, and just very like you can just relax into it. It's so very beautiful. And it's just perfect shapes, perfect colors. Everything is yeah, very, very nicely done there. Yeah, I don't know. I
Wow.
can see it through my pushing my eyeball. It
Well, that's
seems like.
interesting because I wonder if it is moving your pineal gland just enough to be able to perceive that layer.
Ah.
Because, the pineal gland is our third eye, but it's the anatomical structure that's associated with third eye sight. So maybe it's just like adjusting it just enough to be able to allow you to see that.
Hmm. Yeah,
That's
I
my
have no
guess.
idea, but sounds interesting. You know what? I will actually explore that.
Yeah.
Just sit down and stay in that space for a while and see what's happening, because usually it's only for like a 1 or 2 minutes and then I just leave.
Yeah.
But since we're talking, yeah, very interesting. Yeah.
Now I want to try that. I had this experience like a few days ago with a light. There is this because if you do like if anybody takes psychedelics, that's also like people will see geometries, they'll see different shapes through psychedelic use, through like ayahuasca or mushrooms, that kind of thing. But there's this light. It's called a Lucia light. Actually, it's called Lucia light number 3 is the one that I did. But there's a practitioner here near me who you use music. So you've got headphones on, and then there is this light that's flashing down. And I think it's got like one flickering light and one steady light. And the combination of the lights with the music, and you have your eyes closed, and the visuals are bonkers. It feels like like you have taken a psychedelic, but it's only happening through, like the light's not even touching you. Like it's only flickering on top of your head, but your brain processes it and starts to show all these shapes. That's one of the elements, like a lot of fractal shapes. There was, like a portal, there at one point I could see all this color, and then there was like a portal going through it where things were going in and out. like energy was going in and out. But it makes me think of what you're saying because it's just like this, it's like it helps you to tap into something, but kind of the mechanism of how it's happening, the why, is mysterious, but it just does. And it's kind of
Yeah.
like I think one of the people who developed it has had near-death experiences and was like, "Oh, this stimulates a near-death experience." There's
Mhm.
another light called Roxiva. I think I haven't done that one, but
Mm.
so yeah. And another way that you can work with it is just if you print it out or you draw it, then just meditating with it. So like open eye meditation where you're letting the gaze go soft and then, things start to shift and morph. Like it will look like the geometry kind of starts to pull out and go back and get some depth. So like the 2D starts to look 3D with your soft gaze. And I mean, when I'm doing that, I can feel rewiring happening. I can feel balance happening on between the left and right hemisphere. That really affects my dreams as well. Like the structure of my dreams changes where I will feel like I'm in these like long hallways, long rooms. And it's like, oh, like as soon as I wake up, I'm like, I was in that geometry that I can't stop drawing, but there was a story put on top of it. So there's so much that you can do. I wouldn't say that there's even just like one right way to do it. There are so many ways to interact with it, to experience it, and then also so many different like results that can come from it.
Mm. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. I love that there is so much to explore through various different practices or possibilities. So thank you for sharing this one. Yeah, very
Yeah.
fascinating, beautiful. Yeah, I think we are coming to an end of our conversation. That was very interesting. So thank you very much for sharing what you do and what you're interested in.
Yeah.
And
Thank
now
you.
I would like you to share a little bit about where people can find you and about your book, maybe, and the other offerings, and also about the Miracle Summit, which will be on December 6th. And I will take part in it. So that's very exciting. So, yeah, maybe you can share a little bit about all of these things.
Yes, I'm so excited to collaborate with you again on that. So my website is karagoodwin.com. I spell Kara with a K. All my podcasts are on soulelevationpodcast.com. On karagoodwin.com, you can get free meditations. I've got my community on there. You can learn about my book and sacred geometry. I have a sacred geometry course, like a workshop series that is self-paced, available on there. And then you can also sign up for the Miracle Summit 25, which, as you mentioned, is going to be December 6th. So I have amazing speakers who are going to be joining me. It's kind of I call it like the TED Talk style, where everybody will have a certain amount of time. And we're just going to be going deep into the miracles energy. We're going to open ourselves up to the miracles energy. And we're doing this right around the holidays so that we can get into this vibration, get into this feeling and allow it to adjust our reality. And then as we have those interactions, as we're in the holidays and we're going to more holiday parties and we're connecting with family and friends that we don't see in such voluminous experiences most of the year, we are in this vibration, we're carrying this vibration, and then it's rippling out. So I did this last year too with beautiful responses and feedback from people who'd participated. So I hope that people will join. It's free to join. You can upgrade to receive the replay. You can become a VIP for a very reasonable cost, where all of the speakers will be providing beautiful gifts that will help you to cultivate and keep things going, and just to keep in that vibration and extend it even longer.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's actually such a nice idea to have this before the holidays and then bring the
Yeah.
spirit with us through the time of Christmas and then Christmas time and the family gathering and everything. Yeah, very amazing. So thank you for yeah, setting this up and organizing it. Also for the invitation and for everybody who's interested, there is more information below the video. So I put a link below the video where you can get a ticket, and also of course your website and your book and everything where people can find you will also be in the video description. So yeah,
Thank you.
thank you very much for being here, for having this amazing conversation and reconnecting. I really enjoyed that. So thank you very much for being here, and everybody, thank you so much for listening. Yeah, that was it from us.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for hosting me and for cultivating this beautiful space, and sincerely for everything that you're doing to help people to awaken deeper to their higher selves and their creator being, their source light, all of the ways that you're helping to move this awakening along. I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Mm. Thank you, you too. All right. Thank you very much. Bye bye. Okay. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so
That was
much.
wonderful. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed your your experiences, the consciousness traveling, as I would I call it, yeah, because it's so cool. We are still here, and then we go into certain places, have these amazing experiences, and then they stay, right? And they have a lot
Yes.
of meaning, and they change the way we do things and so forth. So very valuable. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
Mm.
you. Thank you
Yeah.
so
Beautiful.
much. Let me know when this goes out so I can
Yes.
share it.
Mm-hmm.
And
I will,
yeah.
I will. Yeah. And I was just wondering about the Miracle Summit. So
Mhm.
do you want us to give a talk for these 20 minutes, or can I like mix it up with an energy transmission as well? Let's say 10 minutes, or I don't know,
Yeah.
like would it be an
Really,
option?
I want people to do what they feel drawn to. So that would be
Okay.
perfect to
Mm.
do like part of it as a talk and part of it as like a transmission. That'd be beautiful.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
Awesome.
Great. So thank you so
Good.
much for your time. And I will let you
Thank
know
you.
when this is, probably in the next
Perfect.
couple, 3 weeks or so.
Okay.
All
Wonderful.
right.
Thank you
Thank you
so
very
much.
much.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye.